I look at it as like Marshall Faulk, one of my favorite running backs. He played for the Colts, but he's remembered as a Ram. So now I'm just trying to be remembered as an Eagle.
There was always sort of a rule in pro sports, especially the NFL. Don't trade within the division. If you're going to trade Russell Wilson in Seattle, get him to Denver, even though it didn't work out, there's always the chance it would work out. What's remarkable is that you knew Jalen Hurts could play. I mean, you saw all the weapons Philadelphia had. Their O-line, their tight ends, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You knew that if Saquon Barkley ended up on that roster, it was going to be lightning. It was going to be transformative. And they still did it. And, people are talking about the Luka deal, and I understand that he's a running back, probably only has like 3 great years left. He's had a few injuries. But when you consider all the components that went into it, proximity, they're in your division. They had a great O-line, tight ends, receiver, and quarterback, and they kind of needed a star running back to make it one of the all-time loaded offenses, and you still let it go. And the other thing is, I remember, if you go back to the beginning, we kept saying they have a choice here. Are they going to pay Saquon, or are they going to pay Daniel Jones? And we knew quarterback was really important, but I think what Saquon proved, and Derrick Henry proved, and Josh Jacobs proved, and Aaron Jones proved, and all these running backs, J.K. Dobbins when he was healthy proved, the running back remains undervalued. And you can, Baltimore and Philly had great years. They were led by running backs.
Okay, let's talk about this. First off, man, I got the chills when Saquon Barkley said that about the Eagles. I think that's so cool when he was like, you got drafted by the Colts, but, remembered as a Ram. That's special. That's real love. And you can look at other players and other teams, and that's the culture of Philadelphia Eagles as well as Saquon Barkley himself. I've talked about this in a few different videos that were like less Philadelphia Eagles centered, so I'm sure a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans probably missed it, but like the Philadelphia Eagles create such a welcoming culture and environment and family that is quite frankly second to no team out there. You saw Mekhi Becton, right? He was a bust with New York, and he talked about, and this was before they won the Super Bowl, where he said, you would have thought that I was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how great they treated me. And for those of you who don't know, that like within the NFL, like people who get drafted like are ultimately treated better than those who are not, because it's kind of like we invested in you, we used a first round draft pick on you, like you get many extra chances to succeed. There's just like more weight that's given you outside of like some free agent where they pay you like 150 million, like something kind of outrageous. But like there is kind of this hierarchy, and like Mekhi Becton just felt like, like he was part of the family, like he's been with the Eagles for years, and A.J. Brown feels that way. Saquon, like C.J. Gardner-Johnson was so upset that he had to leave Philly. He made a comment about Philly fans or whatever. I forget exactly what he said, and he admitted, he's just like, I'm just in my feelings. Like I didn't want to leave. Fangio desperately, he wanted to be the coordinator. Even a coaching staff like wanted to be the coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. And Saquon Barkley wanted to be a Philadelphia Eagle, and it's just like it's just awesome. CD Lamb literally just came out, and they were interviewing him, and they asked him like, who has the most passionate fans, Dallas Cowboys or Philadelphia Eagles? And he said the Philadelphia Eagles. The big time wide receiver for the literal Dallas Cowboys said the Philadelphia. Like he couldn't even just be like, no, it's the Cowboys. Like he was like, no, Cowboys run deep because it's obviously a huge fan base, but he's like, Philadelphia Eagles are more passionate. And it's just like, like that says something. That means something. And it's just special. That is what the Philadelphia Eagles have built. Zach Ertz was traded to the Arizona Cardinals when the Eagles were one of the worst teams in the NFL, and he was being traded to like the best team at that time in the NFL. And at that point, it was the Arizona Cardinals. It was Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, which at that time, that was the next big thing. Kyler Murray was like, people thought he was literally Patrick Mahomes before Patrick Mahomes was Patrick Mahomes. You know, like that's what they were expecting. So like he was going to like the best possible situation at the time, and he was just like he didn't want it. He was like in tears. And then when the Eagles beat Zach Ertz in the playoffs, he was just like, you know, they were giving him a hug, and he's just like, I wish I was there with you guys. You know, I mean, like, it's just like, that's how much they love playing for Philadelphia. That's how much they love the fans, the team, the culture. And it's awesome. I mean, it's just so beautiful to see. And when you now have someone as great as Saquon Barkley, both on and off the field, I mean, Saquon Barkley represents like everything you want in not only a human being, but especially, you know, a football player for your team. And make no mistake about it, this is what always rubs me the wrong way when Colin says this, when he's just like, oh, it was so obvious that this was going to be such a great fit. And it's like, no, it's not. So many people said it was not. So many people said that they overpaid. So many people said that O-line wouldn't be that good, that Jalen Hurts is not good, that Saquon Barkley is not that good. On this very network, we all know famously Nick Wright, but there was plenty. He wasn't the only one. I highlighted Dan Graziano. Like, there's so many other people on all these various networks. People were concerned that the Eagles overpaid. That, you know, that will this O-line really be that good with Jason Kelce no longer there? People weren't like celebrating Mekhi Becton. They were like, oh, the Eagles got Mekhi Becton now. That's going to make a change. Nobody was saying that, you know? So you can't act like this was like an easy decision, that it was a no-brainer. Because if it was a no-brainer, then 30 other teams should have went after Saquon Barkley, and they simply did not. They simply did not. So that take will always rub me the wrong way because it's a revisionist history. Now, to be fair, Colin did believe in the move himself. He believed in the move himself, and so he does deserve credit for that. But don't act like everyone else was, that it was just universally praised. You know, that like LeBron James, the #1 overall pick, like, you know, it doesn't take much talent or you know, skill to draft LeBron James #1 overall pick. That's not what the Saquon Barkley move was. It was not a no-brainer. And so to have him win here is really, really special. Set the record, you know, be part of the team that not only now has the most rushing yards you know, him individually having the most rushing yards of all time, including regular season and playoffs, win the Super Bowl, you know, be part of the team that had one of the most dominant Super Bowl wins of all time against the massive legacy of the Kansas City Chiefs, stopping the three-peat, you know, being part of the team that now scored the most points ever in NFL history, in an NFL postseason, you know, like that is legendary. That is, you know, like, from my viewpoint, Saquon Barkley has already cemented himself, you know, as a Hall of Famer. I mean, he just has. You know, history will be kind to him for them to understand that the New York Giants were wasting and ruining his career. That's just the reality. And they will know that as soon as he got to a high-functioning organization, he literally became the greatest running back, essentially, of all time. Like, I mean, like what else is there to say? He was part of dominant. He scored the most points ever in NFC, you know, in AFC or NFC championship game history. Had one of the most dominating playoff wins against an all-time great team. You know, they averaged over 200 rushing yards in the playoffs. You just can't get more dominant than that. And it was year one when Saquon Barkley's not like in his pure athletic 24-year-old prime. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. Multiple 60-plus yard touchdown runs in the playoffs alone. And there would have been another one. Now you're kind of thinking like, oh man, you should have just kept running against that Packers game. You know, first off, you would have added more points to the playoff total now, as well as more yards for your total, as well as an extra touchdown and, you know, an extra, you know, 60-plus yard touchdown, you know, because the reality is that it should be even more impressive. Not to mention, at some point, you know, especially in the Super Bowl, Like, it became very predictable. They were just going to hand the ball off. Like, they didn't need to try to work the game, get more scores. But, like, if they were trying to maximize their scoring, like, if the Chiefs just could put up any more of a fight, Saquon Barkley would have had more rushing yards, more total yards, more points, potentially more time. Like, it would have been even higher. Not to mention, one of the games was in a blizzard. Was in a literal blizzard. And yet he still balled out and had 2, 60-plus yard touchdowns. Like, it's just outrageous. It really, really, really is. And I kind of made a video the other day where I ripped the lack of Eagles content, which is very valid and true. And credit for Colin for doing this, because I'm making this video right now in the middle of the night. And first things first, didn't have a single on Wednesday, didn't have a single Philadelphia Eagles segment. Not a single Philadelphia Eagles segment. And I honestly think that's actually pretty indefensible. I really do. I'm not going to go on that big, long rant that I did. I encourage you guys to watch that other Herd video where I talk about it, where it talks about, the Eagles will be great for years to come, and just the lack of the content around the Philadelphia Eagles. But, like, there was, again, multiple, like 2 or 3 Kansas City Chiefs segment for First Things First on Wednesday. There was a segment again on, like, Kevin Durant and, like, just everything else but the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's pretty outrageous, honestly. And again, credit to Colin for actually, putting out some Philadelphia Eagles content today, because he only had like one Eagles thing on Tuesday, and it was like hardly about the Philadelphia Eagles. It was about the ratings, about the Super Bowl, but it was just about how great the NFL is, not about like the Eagles, as well as, and he had another segment where, again, it was green and you had a Philadelphia Eagle there, but it wasn't actually about the Philadelphia Eagles. He like mentioned about Howie Roseman and the draft and the team that the Eagles built, but it was more in the context of like how teams are built and what the Rams have done and things of that. It wasn't actually about the greatness of the Eagles. So, even this segment is not even 100% about the Eagles. It's more of an indicator about the playoff position, the running back position and running backs being undervalued rather than the true greatness of Saquon Barkley, the Philadelphia Eagles, what they accomplished. Like, it's still not quite the conversations that I think they should be having. So, I just want to I still got to emphasize that, because it's just what I see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles? Kind of just the truly historic year. And you know what's funny? It's like, we don't even have to really put that in like quotes or like, yeah, it was kind of historic. Like, no, like, it was legitimately record-breaking and historic. What do you make of all that and the conversations that are being had, after the fact? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.